Nation, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And as we continue on our journey of trading with a purpose, we've been breaking down now for the past 5 or 6 videos. We've been breaking down basically directional bias and peak formations. Now, throughout those videos, you've heard me say until we get any evidence of a peak formation, we should still continue to trade in that directional bias. So in this video, I'm going to break down for you what does it actually mean when I say we haven't gotten any actual evidence of a new peak formation forming yet. I'm going to break that down for you so you guys can understand when I say that in the video, because I'm going to keep saying that throughout the entire year for the 4 pairs that we're watching. So I want to make sure that when I say that, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about and why I'm saying it. So let's jump right into the charts and let's talk about this. So whenever I talk about a pair, and let's say we have a peak formation high like we have here on pound JPY, and we're moving down and we're looking for we're looking for sells obviously on this particular pair. And we've already reached that number of a full cycle, let's say between 2.5 and 4.5 times ADR, right? But we still don't have a peak formation low forming yet, okay? So I'm still looking for evidence of a peak formation to start to form, all right? So here's what I'm talking about when I say that. If we go back on this chart here, pound JPY. So if we go back to this time, this is Friday. So we're coming off peak formation high. And if we do the calculations, just how much we know, we're about 842 pips down into this cycle. So 846 pips. And then this current cycle right here is averaging somewhere around 190. So clearly, we're pretty much at 4.4 times ADR, right? So at some point here, we're pretty much expecting a peak formation low to start forming somewhere, okay? But there is nothing here that tells me that there is a peak formation that's forming, right? So yes, we're at 4.4 times ADR, all right? We should be getting, hopefully, a peak formation forming soon, all right? But you can see from the price movement, okay, you can see from the price movement, we're still going straight down. So at what point do you say, okay, well, if I'm not seeing anything there, price is not showing me anything, that's not telling me, hey, it's going to create a peak formation low here anytime soon. So until I see something that gives me evidence that a peak formation low is forming, I'm still looking for sells. Now, am I going to be more cautious or more picky about the types of setups that I would choose to trade because I know that I'm towards the end of a cycle? Yes. But the fact is that we don't have any evidence yet. And so what I mean by evidence is this, okay? If we have a peak formation high and we're just moving along, right? And we just have this, just like here, like we have on the chart, and it's 4.4 times ADR. There's nothing here to tell me that we've been creating a peak formation low or anything that shows me we are. So what I'm looking for as evidence is I want to start to see some kind of consolidation start, because without consolidation, it's kind of hard to create a peak formation low, right? So if we start to play out this chart here, you're going to see we gap down, okay? We start to gap down, and then we start to retrace, which is good. This is what I'm talking. This is the kind of things that I'm looking for. This is great. Right, this is good price action. This is telling me, okay, here we might have a possibility for a peak formation low to start forming. Okay, but we still need all of the different confirmations for a peak formation. So the reason that we want to have this consolidation start to happen is because for a peak formation low to form, we need to do this, right? Now, whenever price does do this, this right here is going to be the first thing that we need as a break of structure to help confirm the peak formation. So if we don't have that present, okay, if we do not have that present, then essentially what you end up getting is possibly something like this. You end up getting like a V-shape recovery, okay? And ideally, that's not what we want to see for a peak formation low or peak formation high. We want to see some kind of actual structure there being built, okay? So, and I'm going to show you examples of both so you know what I'm talking about. But you can see here that we start to form some form of consolidation here, which is good. This is what we want to see. But at the end of the day, just because we're forming consolidation doesn't mean that we've confirmed the peak formation low. Remember what we need for a peak formation low to be created, or a peak formation high, really any peak formation. We need a one-time ADR move away from a peak formation low, which hasn't been created yet. We need the 13 and 50 crossover, and we need the break of structure. And then obviously we need to be in that window of 2.5 to 4.4 times ADR. So in this case here, we have the 2.5 to 4.4 times ADR, check, right? The next thing is we need a crossover, because without the crossover, this doesn't work. And we never end up getting a crossover. So this is very important, because without that crossover, this whole thing is for nothing, right? So you see what ends up happening is we still get price movement basically going lower. Just because we have the consolidation, that's good. That's evidence that we could potentially see a peak formation low forming. But now we need the other factors that come into play. We need the crossover, we need the break of structure, which we don't get, and we need the 1 times ADR, which we don't get, right? So here, what do we see here? Price goes down, and look what we start getting. We get that V-shape recovery like this, right? We get the V-shape recovery, okay? The crossover happens. We know we're in that window of 2.5 to 4.5 times ADR. Because this consolidation was actually built here after the gap, right? This is the first area of break of structure that we have to help confirm it, right? So we have the 1 times ADR move from a peak formation because we got the crossover. From here is obviously enough for a 1 times ADR. That's already 500 pips, right? The break of structure is right here, and then the crossover. So we have what we need for a peak formation low to form, okay? And that's essentially where we are now. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention about these V-shaped recoveries like this, okay, is that whenever we do have some type of a V-shaped recovery, we have to ask ourselves, did we get a V-shaped recovery because we're basically in a bigger picture downtrend? Because if we are in a bigger picture downtrend, okay, it would absolutely make sense of why we get a V-shape like this. Okay, because essentially during the bigger picture, if you go up to a 4-hour whatever daily time frame, right, all you're doing is you're just doing a retracement of a downtrend. This essentially would be the V-shaped recovery, and this ends up being essentially just a retracement along the downtrend. And this, in that downtrend, essentially would become a reset. Obviously, if you've been paying attention to the news lately, you know that all of this right here has a lot to do with just news, tariffs, and all kinds of stuff, right? So a lot of this stuff that's going on right now is due to news, economic events. Okay, it's not normal price action. All right, so you have to keep those factors in mind as well. USD, and you can see that in this one here, we get essentially what we want to look for. Okay, if we go back here, even before this was created, how many pips is this from peak formation high to this? It's about 493 pips. Well, what is the average ADR on this pair during this particular cycle? So the average is going to be about 92 pips. So we're already at 5.3 times ADR on this pair, right, at this particular moment in time. So we already know that we're beyond, this is essentially turning into a super cycle. So we know we're beyond the normal range of a cycle. So we definitely are expecting some form of a peak formation low to form. We don't know when it's going to form, but we know it should start to come very soon. But we don't have any evidence yet of a peak formation low forming. So as you see price action starting to come back and starting to consolidate, this right here is the evidence that you want to see for a peak formation. You can see a very nice consolidation happening, and then you get, you know, the crossover afterwards. By the time the crossover happens, essentially you already have this area here, which is what you're going to use for your break of structure. You have your crossover that happens, and this is 92, about 92 pips on the day. We're already at 153, so we have the 1 times ADR, the crossover, break of structure, and then also from 2.5 to 4.5 times ADR, right? So we know that this is good, and you can see even with that, a nice pullback as well. This is what you ideally want to see. Okay, I find that these are a lot stronger than V-shape. Look at NAS 100. NAS 100, same thing, right? Very big aggressive move, and then it started to consolidate here, and then the news that we got from the tariffs, right, is what actually enabled the crossover to happen, and the break of structure. Now think about the fact that we didn't get this right because we didn't have any major consolidation here. This was the break of structure that we needed in order to break for us to actually get a peak formation low out of it. Here's another example as well. It started out as a V shape, but eventually started to consolidate, and then we had the crossover. So it's okay to have a V shape here, but if we can start to build out something that we can use as a break of structure, this right here is going to be your break of structure, right? So you want to see that, because once it crosses over, that's going to be the first break of structure that we have, and then we're pretty much good from there. Okay, so in this particular video, we literally just talked about what it means when you want to see evidence of a peak formation. Okay, so just be aware that when you're towards the end of a cycle, you want to see evidence of a peak formation low forming. Until you get that evidence, right, you can continue to trade with the cycle that it's currently on. But you just have to be aware that obviously at some point very soon, it could be that same day or the next day or a couple days later, it could form a peak formation. And so that's why I tell you guys, if you go back to the videos from the 2024 playlist, that if you're towards the end of a cycle, the risk become higher of you taking a loss for that specific reason, especially when you're overextended of a 4.5 times ADR and things of that nature. So the best scenario for you is always to look for brand new confirmed peak formations and just trade from the very beginning towards the end, and then leave the end to essentially finish by itself. Go look at another pair and then, you know, come back to it. If you look at gold, same thing, right? We can see how it started to consolidate, and this consolidation is good. This is what we want to see when a peak formation low is starting to form. So hope this video brought you some value. Now you should have a better understanding as to what I mean whenever you're going to hear me in the video say still waiting for evidence of a peak formation, or we don't have evidence of a peak formation. All right, guys. So until the next video, guys, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, share the content. If you need help, consider joining FXM Plus, and we will see you in the next one.